What if the most heartbreaking loss wasn't the end, but a terrifying new beginning? Imagine your father gone, but his unfinished business refuses to stay buried. For these brother and sister, grief turns to horror when their dad's spectral return forces them to confront a chilling family secret they never saw coming.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
The movie begins with Haiti cleaning a car when his daughter, Saras, tells him to go home, saying she and Eudice will handle the rest of the work. On his way home, Haiti, feeling exhausted, suddenly encounters an oncoming car, but narrowly avoids a collision. The next morning, Saras notices that Haiti looks pale and asks if he wants to see a doctor, but he insists he's fine and says it's better to spend the money on fixing the broken pipe. Saras tells him his health is more important and urges him to go, but he brushes it off and asks if she feels burdened by him. She quickly says, "Of course not," saying that ever since their mother passed away, he has worked hard so she and Eudice could live comfortably. He sighs and says all his businesses have failed, and the only thing left is the car wash, which he plans to pass down to her. Just then, Eudice comes out and jokes that their father says this every week, and he's already memorized it. Haiti continues that when he dies, he wants to be buried in the village where he was born and has already asked Uncle Setio to ensure he's buried according to Islamic customs. Saras asks why he doesn't want to be buried next to their mother, saying she won't have anyone to talk to. Hadi laughs at her words, and Eudice says he is leaving for work. As he leaves, Saras tells her father to rest if he's not feeling well, but he reassures her that he's fine. Later that evening, Haiti is alone at home when a light suddenly switches on by itself. Growing uneasy, he moves toward it, but suddenly all the lights go out, and in the darkness, he sees a pair of glowing eyes staring at him. Terrified, Haiti steps back as a shadowy figure emerges from the dark room. But just then, a book falls to the floor, and when he looks up, the entity has vanished. Haiti bends down to pick up the book, and a voice whispers that his time is up. After a while, Saras gets a notification on her phone and sees that her dad has sent her photos of that same book. Later, when they return home, they are shocked to find Haiti lying on the floor, and they realize that he has died. Later, Uncle Setio arrives and comforts Eudice, telling him to stay strong. Eudice tells him that Saras is inside, and Setio informs him that the hearse is ready and he will need his help shortly. He then meets Saras and tells her that they need to move her father's body tonight. She asks where he plans to take him, and Setio says he's not sure whether her father mentioned it to her, but he had asked to be buried in the village. Saras stands up and says her father mentioned it before, but she intends to bury him in Surabaya, next to their mother. Setio urges her to consider her father's wishes, but Saras argues that she and Eudice live here, and she doesn't want to be far from him. Setio warns her not to take her father's last request lightly, but Eudice replies that he supports Saras, and if he disagrees, he is free to go home. Later, Haiti's body suddenly begins to move, startling the people who are praying there, and before anyone can understand what's happening, Haiti abruptly sits up, causing everyone to panic. Hearing the commotion, Saras and Eudice rush over and are stunned to see their father sitting upright. In disbelief, they move closer as Haiti whispers, "My dad is picking me up." Saras leans in to hear him better, and he murmurs, "One lives, one dies," before suddenly collapsing again. Later, while everyone is asleep, Haiti comes back to life once again and begins walking toward the exit in a strange, unnatural manner. Just then, Saras steps out and calls to him, making him stop. But when he turns toward her, she is terrified to see his eyes glowing. He suddenly says this is her fault, and she jolts awake, realizing it was all a nightmare. However, when she comes outside, she finds that their dad is gone. Meanwhile, Setio and his family are terrified when they find Haiti's body lying outside their house. Eudice receives a call from Setio's daughter, Dia, who tells him that Haiti's body is on their porch. She shows it to him over a video call, and Sarah says they'll head over right away. On their way to Setio's house, Eudice wonders how their dad's body ended up there, and asks if Uncle Setio might have taken it during the night. Saras admits it's her fault, saying she ignored their father's last wish, and now feels like she's being punished for it. She says that what matters now is fulfilling his wish. It doesn't have to be in Surabaya, and she just wants to give their dad a proper burial. They finally arrive at Setio's house, and Saras asks him if he took their dad's body, but Dea explains that she was the one who found his body. Just then, Ustad Zuhri arrives, and Setio tells them that he will be leading the Tahlil prayer, but to Saras's horror, she sees a ghostly figure standing in front of her, causing her to become dizzy from fear and collapse, losing consciousness. Later, Yudis notices something drawn on the wardrobe and asks who drew it. Sarah says she did it, explaining that when their mom was pregnant with him, they argued over his name. Their dad wanted Arga, and she wanted Sakti, but after their mom passed, they chose the name she wanted. She tells him she was 5 when they moved to Surabaya, but she still remembers the good times they had in this house. Yudis says, at least she has memories of their mom and this home. He has none. Saras explains that they moved to Surabaya because their mom had complications while pregnant with him. Their dad wanted to make sure both he and their mom would be safe, but Yudis says it still didn't work out. He was born, and their mom died. Later, while working in the kitchen, Saras learns that Dea is suffering from leukemia. Amber tells her that Dea shouldn't move around too much, but Dea insists she's fine and walks out. After she leaves, Saras asks Amber how Dad's body ended up there, and Amber explains that long ago, a man with supernatural abilities lived in the village, someone who practiced black magic. His powers brought him many blessings, but they also came with a curse. Saras asks what the curse was, and Amber explains that he was unable to pass on, trapped in a dying state, unable to truly die. Saras asks if that's why her dad's body returned to the village, to which Amber steps closer and tells her that her uncle knows this best. Saras steps outside, but she suddenly feels dizzy and hears her father's voice whispering, "Look what you did! This happened because you didn't respect my will." Moments later, Hades' agonizing cries for help echo through the air, a sound only Saras can hear, and suddenly, blood starts pouring from the mouth of Hades' corpse, horrifying everyone present. Ustad Zuhri urges everyone to stay calm, tells them to stop the prayer session, and suggests that they wash the body again. Later, the corpse washer runs out and vomits, saying he can't handle the body. He asks if Rajaman's burial was the same, since his body was also hard to bury. Someone adds that Jiwio had the same issue 50 years ago, but Setio cuts them off, telling everyone not to bring that up and to respect his brother. Yudis decides to wash the body himself, but he hears a noise, and we see Hades' corpse briefly sitting up on its own. But when Yudis turns around, the body is lying down again, as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, Amber hears commotion outside and goes to check what's happening. Saras follows her out when suddenly, someone calls her name, making her freeze in fear. Her name is called again, and when she turns toward the sound, she sees a figure in the dark with glowing eyes. Terrified, Saras watches as the figure moves toward her, and she slowly backs into the kitchen. Her eyes fix on the doorway, and the water has spread across the floor. Suddenly, her hand slips into the sink, and she sees the figure standing in the kitchen doorway. Saras slips on the water, and she finds that the figure has vanished. She tries to steady herself when she hears a voice behind her, but no one is there. And then the entity suddenly appears. Meanwhile, Yudis finds a flower on the ground and sees his father's legs standing in front of him. But when he looks up, Hades' body is still lying in place. Confused, he looks down again, and the feet are still there. And before he can react, a hand suddenly grabs his hair and forces his head into the water. He struggles desperately, but manages to pull himself free. He rushes into the house and tells Saraz that something is very wrong here. She asks if he's okay, but then notices a bruise on his neck. He asks if something happened to her as well, but before she can answer, Setio walks in, and Saras asks him what's going on. Setio tells them that the black magic was passed down to their father, and explains that anyone who inherits it struggles to die unless the magic is severed. That's why before an Islamic burial, a specific ritual must be performed, and the burial must take place on a Kliwon Friday. Saras insists that it's impossible, saying delaying the funeral until Friday means waiting 2 more days. Setio explains that it began with their great-grandfather, then their grandfather, and now their father. Yudis calls it all nonsense, but Setio insists they need to understand, saying if the black magic isn't severed, it could pass on to one of them. He explains that their father's business failing was a sign that he needed a new successor, and that his final wish was to end the magic. Saras asks what happens if the black magic isn't broken, and Amber answers, one leaves, one dies. She explains that the blessings of the magic always come with a price, and that their father chose to inherit it to save Yudis when he almost died at birth. But Saraz dismisses this, saying their mother died because of illness, not because of black magic or anything supernatural. Later, Yudis asks Saras what if Uncle Setio was telling the truth, and that means he was the reason their mom died. Saras asks how he can say something like that, but he says it all makes sense now. It explains everything strange that has happened since their dad died. Saras says they will follow their dad's wish, bury him according to Islamic customs, with no magic ritual and no waiting for Kliwon Friday. But if what Uncle Setio says is true, then their dad committed shirk, which is a sin God cannot forgive. Next, we see Saras praying for her father, when she overhears Amber telling Dea that they all believe she will get better. Dea tells her parents they should go check on Saras and Yudis, saying she feels sorry for them having to deal with all of this. Saras returns to her room, hoping to get some rest, but suddenly she hears a noise, as if someone is walking on the ceiling right above her. Terrified, she watches as the sound of heavy footsteps moves slowly toward her wardrobe. The wardrobe door creaks open slowly, and before she can react, Haiti crawls out of it. Frightened, she jumps off the bed and tries to wake Yudis, but finds him lying dead on the bed. Panicked, she rushes to Setio's room, calling for him, only to realize to her horror that she's back in her own room. Shaken, she approaches Yudis, asking if he's okay, who calmly asks what's wrong and tells her to go back to her bed. Shaken, she returns to her room and tries to sleep, but as soon as she closes her eyes, she hears her dad's voice and she sees him on Yudis's bed, saying, "Let's go home." He then asks her, "Why won't you grant my wish?" But she screams for her auntie and rushes to her room, only to find herself back in her own room again. And seeing her terrified, Yudis asks why she is screaming. She asks if he's okay, and he replies, "Why wouldn't I be?" The next day, Saras argues with Setio, insisting they bury their dad today, saying he will never find peace if they keep delaying it. Yudis tries to calm her down, and Setio insists they must wait for Kliwon Friday, but Saras approaches the Ustad and asks, Islam says he should be buried right away. They finally take Haiti to be buried, but on the way to the cemetery, one of the men suddenly notices blood on his shoulder. Panicking, he tells the Ustad about it, and hearing this, chaos breaks out. Setio suggests they should delay the burial, but Saras insists they keep going. As they reach the cemetery, the grave dug for Hadi starts filling with water, causing the ground to sink. Saras tells the Ustad to start anyway, but one of the men says they can't continue like this. The Ustad tries to calm everyone down and tells Saras that it looks like they have to wait. Later that night, Setio tells them that before they bury Hadi, they still have to do something important. But before he can explain, the lights suddenly go out, and a dark voice whispers, "One leaves, one dies." It says their family's blood has sealed the pact. It continues, "I kept my promise to your father, and now it's your turn to keep yours. One of you must come with me to hell, burned by fire, and I have come to collect a soul." A demonic entity suddenly appears in front of them, making everyone jump in fear, and then it vanishes. Setio, terrified, tells them that they don't have much time left. Meanwhile, some villagers hear rustling sounds, and when they scan their surroundings, they are horrified to see Hadi's corpse walking. At the same time, Amber says they should tell the neighbors about it, so they don't get suspicious. Sarah stops them and asks if this is really the only way, but Amber suggests they should split up to get it done faster. Meanwhile, Yudis asks Dea if his dad is the only one whose burial was delayed like this, and she says, Grandpa Rajaman's burial was the same. She asks why he wants to know, but he picks up his phone and looks at the photos their dad sent before he died. He then asks Dea if she has Grandpa Rajaman's Yasin book, and she says yes. It's in the storeroom, along with the Yasin books from their ancestors. On the other hand, Saras hears rustling sounds in the woods and is horrified to see Haiti walking among the trees. Yudis finds Yasin books in the storeroom, all marked 14th of Suro. He's about to leave when he hears a noise, but when he looks around, he sees no one. Curious, he climbs the stairs and peeks above, finding only a crib. Ignoring it, he turns to leave, but suddenly the door slams shut. Meanwhile, Sarah sees several ghostly figures standing in front of her, including her father's ghost. Then, even more glowing eyes appear behind them. Yudis desperately bangs on the door when he sees a ghostly figure watching him from above, which spikes his fear. Back in the woods, Hades' ghost walks towards Saras, and she steps back in fear, but she slips and falls to the ground. Hades' ghost climbs on top of her and asks where she was when he was dying. It says, "I was born from fire, and you from the earth." It tells her that it has granted their family's wishes for generations. Her ancestors were its servants, and now it's her turn. Meanwhile, Eudes sees that the ghost has disappeared, but as he tries to leave, many hands suddenly grab him and try to cover his mouth. He struggles and manages to reach the door, and as Dea opens it, he runs out in fear. Ceres wakes up gasping and sees that all the ghosts have disappeared. Terrified, she runs back to Amber and Setio, but they are shocked when they look at her. One of her eyes has turned completely black. Seeing their faces, she asks what's wrong, and Setio tells her that she has been chosen as the next heir. When they return home, Eudes takes Ceres's hand, leads her into a room, and closes the door. He shows her that all their ancestors died on Suro 14th, saying their uncle never told them this. Ceres says they will bury Dad on Kliwon Friday, but he reminds her that earlier she said they should bury him according to Islamic customs. Ceres says they already tried, and it failed every time, but Eudes disagrees and says he doesn't believe that. Suddenly, Ceres tells Eudes that it's his fault, and when he asks what she means, she slowly stands up, and in a deep, manly voice, she asks him how it feels knowing he caused their mother's death. The entity says that if he had never been born, their mother, father, and sister could have lived happily. It says that for centuries, their family has been its home, and this village, the blood in Ceres's body, and his family's legacy will be a curse for his descendants. It warns that everyone will die, and then it grabs Eudes by the throat and starts choking him. Dea bursts into the room and tries to help, but the entity's grip is too strong. Suddenly, Ceres's neck starts twisting unnaturally, and she collapses to the floor unconscious. Eudes runs into the village, asking the villagers for help, but everyone ignores him. Meanwhile, Amber and Setio tie Ceres to a chair. She asks what they are doing and what is going to happen to her, to which Setio apologizes and says he has no choice. He explains that her dad did this to save Eudes, and now he is doing the same for Dea. Ceres calls out to Dea for help, but Amber quickly runs and locks the door from the outside. She apologizes to Dea and says they are doing this for her own good, explaining that they just want her to get better. Meanwhile, Ustad asks Eudes what's wrong, and Eudes tells him he needs his help, saying his sister has been taken and forced into a ritual. At the same time, Dea climbs out of the window and runs towards the village. Eudes shows Ustad the flower he found near his dad's body, and Ustad identifies it as a canthil flower, used to summon spirits, and says someone messed with their father's corpse. Meanwhile, Setio reveals that he used a canthil flower to summon the black magic inside her dad's body, so Ceres wouldn't be able to bury him and wouldn't inherit the magic right away. He says he needed time to prepare this ritual, even though no one in their family has ever done it before. He had to stain the corpse with blood and do whatever he could to delay the burial, so the black magic would pass to her and he could complete the ritual. Setio then slowly slices Hades' hand with the knife. The wound opens, and dark blood drips down. Then he cuts his own hand the same way, and without saying a word, he presses their wounds together, letting the blood mix. Meanwhile, Dea finds Eudes and the Ustad, and she begs Eudes to help Ceres, saying her parents are trying to hurt her. They immediately rush to go back home, but the villagers arrive, calling them hypocrites, because their family is practicing black magic. Setio walks towards Ceres, and she begs him not to do this, but he says he can take the magic from her to save Dea. Ceres says this isn't right, and that they can find another solution together, but he says she is now the vessel of the magic, so she must die, so he can take it from her. He then leans forward and whispers something into her ear. Meanwhile, Ustad tells the villagers that this problem will never stop if they keep doing this. He asks all of them to go to the mosque and perform the funeral prayers for Hades. Setio tries to stab Ceres, but an unseen force stops him and throws him back. Then both of their bodies start shaking violently, and Setio's eyes turn black. Just then, Amber runs in, but he suddenly grabs her by the neck, lifts her into the air, and throws her to the floor. He then sits on her and starts choking her, but the unseen force pushes him away again. At the same time, Ceres's eyeball splits, and as she slowly raises her head, Setio apologizes to her. Her eyes then also turn completely black, and Setio keeps apologizing, admitting that everything is his fault, but the entity forces him to kneel. After this, Blood begins to ooze from Saras's mouth, and at the same moment, the villagers start Hades' funeral prayers at the mosque. Yudis reaches home with the Ustad and Dea, but they are horrified to see Saras in her demonic form. The entity says, "Those who choose to be my servant must be ready to die by fire." And as it finishes speaking, Setio's body suddenly bursts into flames, shocking everyone. After a moment, the fire suddenly goes out, and the entity throws Amber aside, killing her instantly. Ustad steps forward to face the demon, and as he begins praying, Yudis rushes to help him. Another man also joins them, and together they force Saras to her knees. Ustad continues reciting prayers, but the demon throws the other man aside and grabs Ustad's arm, scratching it with its nails and making him back off and stop for a moment. Ustad gathers himself and continues praying, but the demon taunts him, asking if he has forgotten his ancestors' past, before throwing that man and Yudis away again. Ustad keeps praying while Yudis tries to bring Saras back, and Dea joins him. Suddenly, Yudis starts choking, and the demon declares they are all destined to die. Dea begs Saras to stop, reminding her that Yudis is her brother, and after a tense moment, Ustad finally manages to expel the demon from her body, and Saras collapses. As they try to wake Saras up, Hades' corpse slowly begins to rise. It speaks, saying, "Indeed, God promised you the true promise, and I also promised you, but I betrayed you. I had no authority over you except that I called you, and you answered me. So do not blame me, blame yourselves." It says, "I deny your association of me with God. Indeed, for the wrongdoers, there is a painful punishment." Ustad immediately begins reciting prayers, while the villagers continue their prayers in the mosque. After a tense moment, Ustad finally manages to expel the demon from Hades' corpse, and they gently lower his body and place it back on the floor. The next day, they bury the bodies with full rituals, and Dea, who has lost both her parents, tells Saras that she doesn't know what to do because she has no one left, to which Saras comforts her and says she still has her and Yudis. The three of them then stand up and leave together, and the movie ends here.